Have you ever wondered what it'd be like if you were to take the Spartans from ancient Greece and have them face off giant robotic bulls just to see who would win in that fight? If you haven't, that's the same with me. But Samurai Jack, I guess I decided in this episode that that'd be a great episode just to portray a whole army versus the robotic army of bulls. I thought it was a pretty fun episode personally, but I got a little crazy at times. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So Jack, he comes upon this battle scene where he sees these ancient Greek warriors firing these rocket spears off to the enemies that immediately get replaced with just a normal spearhead, which they then charge these robotic bulls that are just going full force at these guys. Now, there's a river that's dividing them, so it slows the robotic bulls somewhat down, so the Spartans have a chance to just go in there and stab their mechanical bull adversaries. Now, they never say these are Spartans, but come on, the episode that they're playing off of pretty much goes and just demonstrates that who we're dealing with right off the bat. So it's a great little episode in my opinion. Jackie's watching this whole battle unfold and he notices one particular soldier that's doing badass moves, but he keeps on getting surrounded and he's about to be overwhelmed, and Jack's like, you know what, I can't hold off anymore. I can't just be an observer. They're fighting against man destroying robots, and for Jack, who's had to face a coup and all his robotic monstrosities, he's pretty living organic centric, so which I have no problem against, and he jumps down and he saves that particular soldier from the onslaught he was about to face. Now, after some quick moves and slashing, he defeats all the robots around them, and then the robots, oddly enough, start grabbing their dead and lugging them away back to some unknown region. Now, first thing when I saw this was like, okay, that's weird. Like, all the robots we've seen in the show so far have just left their robotic counterparts on the battlefield to just rot, and then they'll come back with another wave. But the fact that they're taking their dead to somewhere made me wonder, like, is this for like a religious practice here? Are they going to go bury their dead? Or is this just more utilitarian approach where they're going to take the corpse of their dead brother and throw it into a grinder to have it recycled, and then we're going to get another mechanical bull to come back and fight these guys the next day? Just some thoughts I have running through my mind here. So as they're wrapping up the battle, Jack greets the warrior and he's like, well done, you have won this battle. And the warrior's like, no, we have not. And just makes you wonder, like, dang, well, what kind of situation is this if you just won this fight, but in reality you haven't? Just makes you wonder what's going on here exactly. So, to answer your questions, the warrior brings Jack to their king, who is entering with his torn up cape, larger than life figure, has a nasty scar on his face, just looking bad as little heck. And before he greets Jack and the warrior that Jack was fighting with, he meets with a man that was off on one of the flanks, that his unit suffered a lot of casualties. The man reports this to the king. He's just like, so you won't be able to hold on to the line much longer, unfortunately. And the troops like, no, king, we will hold the line. We will never surrender. And the king's like, yes, you will. You will make me proud. You will hold your formation. And for me, that's just, I thought it was a fantastic scene, just showing the passion a soldier would have for his post, that he will not give it up. He will fight to the last man, even if they're in a critical condition. And the king acknowledging that without undermining the soldier, without saying guessing him, he just agrees with him, and he's just like, you will make me proud, filling the man's heart with courage and pride in his duty that he will see it through. I thought that was just a very nice, elegant bit of leadership that the shows that we have nowadays, they honestly couldn't write that scene. I'm just going to be honest with you. The scene here, I'm just going to put it here and you can watch it for yourself. I personally don't think that anyone in Hollywood can really write that nowadays. They don't understand masculinity. They don't understand how you write good characters. Rings of Power, just as a prime example that just happened a little while ago. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's probably some writers out there that can still write good, but as far as I know, I have not seen it personally. So I've just personally absolutely love that little scene that there's like, that's how you write an actual proper masculine scene. How, yes, it's a desperate time, it seems dark and gloomy, and your forces aren't necessarily doing the best, but you demonstrate a great king in that scene, and that's how you do it, in my opinion, at least. Now, with that acknowledged, the king then goes and greets the warrior Brutus, who then introduces Jack to the king. And the king rightfully has some questions for Jack, like, why were you here? This battle is no consequence to you. Why did you butt in? Like, just skeptical, because honestly, I would be too. Like, are you a spy? What was your point in being here? Were you wanting some kind of reward? Why are you here? So I can understand the king being a bit brazen at the beginning. And Jack, he's just like, my apologies. I saw this warrior being outnumbered and was about to be killed, so I had to jump in and help. I didn't mean disrespect, and I'll leave. And Jack's about to turn away and leave when the king's like, whoa, 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 wait. Oh, okay, my apologies. I was a little bit too aggressive here. I've been in war so long that it has ground down my how did he explain it? I think the best way that he explained it was that it's ground down my appreciation for warriors for helping out, and my tongue has become a little bit too rough these days. So I thought it was very well done. The king saved, and he appreciates Jack jumping in. And then Jack, he asked the most important question is like, so what's going on here exactly? Like, why are you guys fighting these mechanical bulls? And the king then goes on this long story of how one day this robotic bull or robotic creature got a hand and started devouring all the landscape, taking in all the resources and reproducing these creatures that then started destroying all their neighboring kingdoms. And soon enough, it came to their kingdom and has almost wiped them out until they came to this one single gap area where it has this river running by and the mountainsides are flooding the forces into one area. So it's more of a skill-based battle versus the numbers, so that the Greek Spartan-like warriors can actually have a chance of fighting. And they've been holding this gap for the last 5 generations. So if you just want to do a quick math, that's probably somewhere around 200, 300 years they've been fighting this endless war day in and day out. So hands off to them for being able to handle these creatures for so long. Like, sheesh, I don't know if you could handle that, but they're able to just hold on just barely because of the situation that's going on. And the next day, it's going to bring a repeat of what's going on. They grab their dead, they bring them off, and then you see the same soldiers that you're fighting yesterday fighting you again and again and again. And if you're getting a little sense of history of what's going on here, you would be correct, because in my mind, they're trying to play off a little bit on Xerxes and his Persian army of immortals coming after the Greeks, and the Greeks having to repel them and fight for their survival. It kind of brings some correlation there to me in the history books, and we'll see a little bit more later on in the story, but we'll get back to the tale going on here. And Jack, hearing this tale, he's just like, well, wait, I think I might have a solution for you. There's a passageway that I just came from that you can use to circumvent your foe, get around them, and do attack from behind, and hopefully end this onslaught that's happening to you. And the king's just like, okay, we're going to do this. Tomorrow morning, I'll leave with 50 of my men with you, and we're going to go attack this creature and end this war. And the initial warrior, Braxes, he's about like, okay, I'll go set it off and get things set up. But the king stops and like, no, you have to stay. You have to command in my stead, just in case if anything happens on this mission. I need you here leading the main force, my son, because this will be a time for you to become king if I die. And the son, instead of being a whining brat, instead of complaining like we usually see in a lot of modern day media, he bends the knee, accepts his kings, accepts his father's will, and leads the troops at the home front. And we get this great scene of seeing Jack leading the invasion force through the pass, and Bractix preparing his troops for the next day assault. I absolutely loved it. You just see these two awesome forces preparing to go into combat. Now, as Jack's force reaches the mothership or mother factory, I guess is probably the best way I can describe it, they're seeing the troops of the bulls rolling out to go face the future Spartans once more. And with that, the king and Jack sound the alarm and they just go charging in to go take out the rock mother, which they're able to do quite successfully. It was interesting how they're able to do that. They gave the sacrifice play not to the king, because that's usually the storyline that you'd see that set up, because the king, he's putting his son in command, he's echoing that, hey, this might be my last battle. If something bad happens, I want you in command, so I'm leaving you here. And usually in these stories, we see the king doing the sacrifice play, passing away, saving his people, having his son take over, and usually that's how we end the story. Not necessarily that's a wrong way to do it, that's just usually the typical way that we see these stories roll out. But in this one, I guess they decided to change up a little bit because Jack himself is the one who takes on that sacrificial role by taking the full blast of the mother robot when it gets destroyed by the king. And the way that they do is kind of interesting because when they're fighting, the king's sword, because it's not a magical sword, shatters to a million pieces at one point, and Jack, without even hesitating, tosses the king his sword, and the king then tosses his shield to Jack. So Jack is dual wielding shields as the king is slicing apart with the katana. Like, okay, that's badass. I like that. And does that mean that the Jack is a greater warrior than King, so he can effectively use double shields to defend them against the onslaught from this beast? Well, the King is a great warrior, but he's better with a blade than with shield. I'm just curious what the reason for that is, because that blade is a part of Jack, and just for him to give it over to the king must mean that he respects the king greatly and he acknowledges his skills, and that Jack also acknowledges that he's probably a better, more skilled warrior than the king, so he can use double shields and able to fend off the beast better than the king. Just some thoughts I was wondering about that as that scene was playing out. Now, the king, he acknowledges Jack. He calls Jack the greatest warrior of the 300 warriors that were out fighting that beast, because he was able to sacrifice himself and save the king and all their land from this onslaught. And the king even acknowledged, like, there's no way that Jack died in that massive disaster, that he had to somehow survive. For a warrior that great cannot go down that easy, and rightfully so. And he says this on his deathbed, so I personally like to think that Season 5 prediction that Jack is kind of a moral warrior, that he has to fight Aku until he defeats Aku so he can go back in time, kind of plays a part in there. So I kind of like to think that's the case that's going on here, because the next time we see the king is that he's old, wrinkly on his deathbed, surrounded by family. So that's kind of what I think is going on here. Now, for me, I personally give this episode a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty good episode, but I have some gripes with it. Number one gripe is, where is Aku? Like, why is this taking 5 generations to conquer your kingdom? Like, I get it. I absolutely love the story that's playing out here, that you just want to have reminiscence of the Battle of Thermopylae, where the Spartans and a whole bunch of other Greeks were fighting and holding off the Persian immortal army until they got eventually betrayed, and they got stuck around and they got destroyed at the pass. But I want to know why Aku hasn't gotten involved, because we know Aku, he has flying robots, he has space robots, he has robots that can tunnel on the ground. So why hasn't he gotten involved? Why is he allowing a group of humanity not fall underneath his sway when he has conquered the rest of the planet and made it into his dark utopia? I'm curious what's going on there. Now, you could just easily explain it away with just a couple lines that the Greek gods have put a protective barrier around us on the skies and below the earth that has prevented any foe from coming at us, but we still have to handle the threat of them coming at us on land. The gods have not given us a blessing there, so we must show ourselves that we are worthy of their protection day in, day out, and then you can have that explanation of why Ku hasn't been able to come in and invade the land, why they can only use ground forces. In fact, you can say like the whole mountain range wasn't even there before, but the gods rose it up to prevent a Ku digging in with his drones and taking over this territory that way. Just try and come up with ideas on why Aku, the Master of Darkness, hasn't come in and completely railroaded their territory yet. Just a little curious there. Next issue, not really necessarily a major one, but it's just a curious of why Jack gave his sword to the king. Now, I already talked about maybe because Jack acknowledged that he was a better fighter than the king, and he could do a lot more damage with the double shields, and the king really only could fight with a blade. Maybe that's what's going on. I just thought it was just kind of odd that that whole scenario is going there, but that's more like a minor issue. And the last issue I have is kind of interrupting the flow of his story, the natural progression that you would see. As I said, that they set up some great foreshadowing that put the son in charge of the army, to have him prepared to become king, and the father going off to defeat the monsters threatening his civilization and thus sacrificing his life to save everybody. Now, yes, it is just a kid's show. You don't have to go that dark, but Samurai Jack has gone that dark before. So it's not necessarily that it can't go that, because remember the Honorable Duel, where Jack went and fought against a lava monster who was a great Viking warrior who tried to stop and fight a coup, but a coup cursed him into this monstrous body that he's had to live in for the last 1,000 years. So it was a pretty tragic story. So Cartoon Network isn't against telling tough and tragic stories for characters. Maybe you can just chop it up too. They didn't want to go that dark, that deep with this one, which is fine. I just thought it would have been a little better. So that's just kind of what brings it down to more of a good average episode and not necessarily a great episode like the one with the Honorable Duel, where Jack dueled the monster to release him of his cursed fate. So that's just my opinion here. But you guys let me know what's your thoughts of this episode down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you liked the episode, leave a comment if you didn't, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next. Y'all have a good one. Y'all take care now. Bye.